Two, one, 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 two. So we're gonna hope that what happened yesterday doesn't happen right now. But anyway, hey everybody, it's your boy Samin, and I'm the host of the Sam My Years show. I want to thank you for hanging out with me a little bit today. This is the Can We Talk Tuesday, and and this is my 90th, like in a row. I think it's like my 92nd because I threw some stuff in there that I got rid of. But this is it. This is it right here. So I'm a little bit excited about that. That to me is like I said it. I said it. I did it. It's done. And I'll sit with that because I know I don't want to break it because the moment I break it, then it'll be like, oh, I'm never doing that again. So, but I'm going to continue. But I have to add some structures, and this has been we have a lack structure. Who's we? Me. Samin has lacked some structure, and that's just the what so. So yesterday I talked a little bit about, I guess not in-laws as much because that's when you're married, but the parents. And what I was thinking was what it's like to be in a relationship with me, because I did some thinking, because I'll do something and I'll think about it, and I'll listen at myself, and I'll go, what were you talking? Oh, okay. Or it's almost like, and guys will get this, maybe women as well, but in that space of I had a dream. Like I never want to hear my partner's dream when it's I had a dream, because the dreams are always, very often the dreams to me come across as contrived. Like I had a dream that, what would you dream? I had a dream that that girl you work with. It's not a dream. It's already not a dream, and I don't want to be responsible for whatever your dream was. Right? I don't want to be responsible for it because it's never just a dream. It's never just a dream. But I've had to sit there or lay there in bed and listen to this dream that doesn't sound like a dream. It actually sounds like some created fantasy where I'm the bad guy, and I don't want to be involved in that. So, and yeah, I've been in. I've never had a dream that I had to talk to my partner about ever, not one time ever. This doesn't happen. I don't have dreams about those types of things. I need to sit there and say, I had a dream that you and your boss. Nope, that it doesn't happen. So I don't listen to the dreams, but it happened. I'm sure women have experienced this as well somehow in there. Maybe you got the dude who's like, yo, babe, I had a dream that I don't listen to it. But my point is, to be in a relationship with me, you don't get dream talk, but you do get, babe, you know what I was thinking about? All the time. All the time. You know what I was thinking? Like what I really gave a lot of thought to last night, and I went to bed thinking about it, and I let my subconscious work through some things and energy. I think that it'll be that, and then whatever it is, it'll be like, I've been thinking this. A lot of times that is not interesting, right? Let me just say that's not interesting. It's not received in a proper way. I'm seeing my TVs over here, and it's like flashing something. I'm looking quietly for the remote. I don't know where it is. Oh, it's right here on the other side of my setup. Bear with me. Yeah, it's flashing. I'm just cutting it off. Yeah, the sunlight hit the screen, and then the screen started. It comes on when the sun touches it, but it was paused on something, and it just did something strange. So the sunlight is coming in, which is my battle. As you can see, it just got really, really bright in here behind me because that's the window. And I got my light here, and it's always a battle with the sun. And you can't beat the sun. It's a losing battle. So ideally, I would want to cut my light down a little bit, but I don't know. I feel like I'm just going to be a little bit blown out. I'm not going to worry about that. So the thoughts about the parents from yesterday. So I went to bed thinking about that. And then I woke up and I was like, oh, so I mean, you're getting a little sensitive about this situation with the parents not pulling you in. And what came up for me is that has never been my experience. My experience has never been, yes, it's Samin. He's the one for you. It just hasn't been. I don't make it mean anything. I can laugh at it now. I remember I was in a relationship for 9, 10 years with a female, and her brother told me early on, she's not the one for you. She's not the one for you. And I think we were maybe a year in. So what that statement did for the type of a person I am, that bought us another 8 years, right? It was like, oh, I'll show you. Because what I heard was not, she's not the one for you. What I heard was, you're not the one for her. And then for me to not be the one for her, like, who are you to tell me that I'm not the one for her? And like, what do you know about me? You don't know me. But I have some things that no one should know about, right? No one should know about these things that has it be where you can tell me that I'm not the one. I'm showing up, I'm suited up, I'm here, got the haircut and clothes are pressed and I'm all the things. How do you know that? But he knew something because he was right in a sense because she wasn't the one and I wasn't the one, or else we'd be together now and we're not, right? And so we went our separate ways after, but it was years of choosing, deciding to be in that relationship when it didn't make any sense at all. So I've never really been received in that way, which is whatever. But that's just what I was thinking. So I went to bed last night thinking about yesterday, which was a little bit of a grueling, because I led 2 meetings elsewhere. Then I did the live and the sound was robotic, which I hope it's not now. A little bit nervous, but I'm just going to keep moving forward. And then I did one right back because that was 89 yesterday. Today is 90. That was 89. And of course, something that I have never experienced would happen at 89 to actually to give me the out, because I did it. I actually did like 29 minutes and it was done, but it was unusable. And I sat there with that and my body was like, yo, dogs, I'm so tired. And I listened to it, I deleted it, and I sat there, I drank some water and went right back at it, right? Because I said the carrot. I said the carrot, and the carrot's right here. It's like right here. It's right there. Can you see it? It's a plump carrot. But anyways, but yesterday I had a interesting conversation which led to a real thought-provoking conversation. So I was on the phone with a few people, and what came up was not trauma. I wrote trauma, and it's traumatic. But what came up was and even as I'm thinking about saying it, it's like one of those things that's like, oh, nobody ever wants to hear this word. But like incest, right? Incest. And it came up, and a person was really speaking about it and having experienced it, and the situation with how it becomes shameful, and people don't talk about it, right? So I was in the same space with another person, and then later on they called me, and they're like, "Dude," because it was something I was a part of, and I was the curator, let's say. And they were like, "Dude, what was up with this conversation?" I was like, "Well, it's real. This happens." And they were like, "Well, I never in all my time have ever heard about it in the Black community. Does that happen in the Black community?" And I was like, "Are you asking me, does incest happen in the Black community?" And they're like, "Yes." I was like, all things happen that happen in any other community happen in the Black community. Why wouldn't it be? And she's like, "But I've never heard it." And it was like, okay. So there's a couple of reasons why that is. And that brought up to me, maybe you're not around the people who talk about it, but more importantly, where I could not just like make it about her not having heard it. I could think about myself and think about things that have happened in my life. And of course, there's all kinds of incest, right? There's like covert incest, which is not spoken about, that happens a lot. Covert incest happens a lot, which is when parents make their children into adults where they share emotional information with children, and you kind of make your child into your partner, not a sexual partner. You make your child into the partner where they know and understand things that are not for them. See, my whole focus on my parenting Cyan is to allow her to be 10. She's 10. Allow her to be silly. So when somebody even says, "Wow, you look like you got a preteen on you," no, I don't. I got a 10-year-old. Like I'm always like, "Nope, she's a kid." Well, the way she speaks, nope, she's a 10-year-old. She's 10. She's 10. She doesn't know about my personal business. She doesn't know about my personal thoughts. She doesn't know about my own fears. She doesn't know about my insecurities. She doesn't need to know about any of that. It's none of her business. And I work on that. Now I work with some stuff with my partner, and I'll share some stuff with her. But my 10-year-old, everything is fine. I am that swan that is on the water, and it looks so beautiful. Underneath, I am churning, and I'm working, and I'm figuring it out, and I'm shifting and moving and scared about certain things that I won't share, but I don't share this stuff with her because I need her to be a kid. And she needs to feel what it's like to be a kid. I didn't get that. I definitely experienced covert incest. I think there's a more medical term that doesn't include the word incest, because incest is a trigger word that people are like a vampire in holy water. But it's facts, right? Like I knew things about Miss Jones, or I'm mentioning just any old name, right? But I knew things about her life, and that was none of my business. And I was friends with kids, and I knew about their parents and people. That all of that type of stuff it's a burden, and that's emotional burden. But the incest and the trauma of so I'll shift it from incest to be like the trauma that is experienced. Like as a man, I have experienced being in situations with women that were older than me, and I'm talking about adult, and I'm still a teenager. That comes across as like a pat on the back from the dudes. It's like, yeah, but it's incest, right? It's not incest. It's an abuse. It's an abuse that doesn't get spoken about because I'm a man, right? There's certain things that we don't talk about because I'm a man, and it's okay. Whereas if that happened to my daughter, there'd be lawsuits and things like that, right? But then I brought up in this conversation how we don't address. I haven't addressed. I'm going to change it from we because I don't want it to be like, well, I don't do that. I haven't addressed. I spent a lot of time of my life not addressing the traumas in my life. If you've been here for 90 days with me, even a couple days, you know that I have worked through a lot of this, which is why I'm like an open book about it, because you're only as sick as your secrets. That's something that I heard that I really got flat on in my life. Like, you know what? I'm only as sick as my secrets, and this is not a secret, especially when it's something that happened to me. Why do I have to now carry the burden of being embarrassed or ashamed about it? And in my community, there's this badge of having gone through things. And I shared about my cousin who I love him. And we went through some poverty craziness. And he would say, and he said it, well, don't you think that made us stronger? With muscles that I don't need, though. Having no food and knowing how to figure some stuff out, did that make me really stronger? Not having electricity, did that really make me stronger? Not having toilet paper and having to use newspaper, did that really make me stronger? Stronger about what? Like, what kind of a strength is that necessary? Like, where am I going in the world that I need those skills? Having things stolen out of my house. But yeah, I'm still here. I made it. I've survived. I'm here. But why is that something that makes me stronger? But it becomes something that's quiet, and I could wear it like a cloak. I could wear it like a cape because I've done these things and I can bang my chest. But experiencing some of that stuff has had me with a little upside down thinking, right? So for example, with money, thinking about money, I'm always thinking about money. I'm not in love with money. Now, see, the light is changing because the sun is now changing in the background. So now this light looks more intense in my face. but that's okay. But with money was always stolen, right? It was always like free money. I took it and hide it somewhere. I come back, some of it would be gone. It was never all gone, right? It wasn't ever like the whole thing was gone. It was like it was $80 here, and now it's only like 40. You took half of my money, and there's something to be said about that. Like, yeah, I took half of your money. I left you with the other half. Maybe I left it for later for me to come back and get it, or you better find another hiding spot. But I started to become really, I could see the humor. Now, there's something humorous about that. Like, she was still, but wouldn't steal it all. She was still enough to do whatever it is she had to do. And maybe I wouldn't even notice it when I looked initially, and then I would count and be like, oh, come on, son. And what do? Because at least you still got some, right? I start to behave in the world of, well, at least I still got some. So I grew up with really hiding money and like really hiding or carrying it with me when it wasn't necessary, but hiding it so much. When I was married, I would hide money. And I remember hiding money in a bag. It was a backpack that I had purchased from going to see Frankenstein the play, right? We bought this backpack and all this stuff. And it was a nice bag. And then I hid money in it just to tuck it and like stuffed it under all the bags. And I remember coming home from school, undergrad, and the house was being cleaned. And it was like, oh, okay. And so I went in the closet to put some money in my hiding spot, and the bag was gone. And I was like, yo, where's the bag? And she was like, oh, the Frankenstein bag? Oh, I got rid of that. I'm like, wait, what do you mean you got rid of it? She's like, I put it out, and then it wasn't where she put it out, and apparently it was somewhere else. And then we went downstairs, and the bag was, it was like, oh, here's the bag. And it was like the money was in the bag. And I was like, babe, the money was in the bag. And she was like, why was money in the bag? And I was like, I just, stash. She's like, why are you stashing money in a bag? Why not leave it, like in your drawer, like right here in the front where your watch is and stuff? And then we had a conversation that there was trauma around that, right? There was a trauma for me around hiding money. And we actually, that became a focus in a relationship, because that whole idea of hiding money was a real thing. And she went above and beyond to, like, we had to get a joint bank account, and it was money. And you have access to all the money. So you put your money in here, my money is in here. My money being her money was way more than mine. And it just was like, this is what we have. This is our pot. You don't have to hide money. And it took that in a while of that, to really get the conditioning of years and years and years of, it's traumatic. That's traumatic, to walk into your bedroom as a kid and something you put there was now gone, right? It's like, wait, where is it? Video games, CDs, wasn't even DVDs at the time. Like, not CDs, cassettes, like that type of stuff, like things being where I left them, they weren't there. And you can see the light changing again. My remote is broke. I would be adjusting it from my hand, but I cannot. I feel like I'm really bright. But anyway, that was a trauma. Like, my mom being on drugs was a traumatic incident that I didn't get to handle or speak about, right? Like, I still have things in my life that I remember like it's nobody's business. Because it's nobody's business, because you don't share your trauma, right? And it's in that world, you don't share it. So if I don't talk about it and I don't share it, how do I get some relief, some recovery around it? Where do I get to see, like, okay, listen, little 8-year-old boy, this thing that you experienced was unhealthy. And it's actually, it has you thinking in a way that is protective in this little bubble of your life. But this little bubble has little to nothing to do with the rest of the world. But the way I related to the world was still very much in that little bubble, right? I related to, like, okay, everybody's against me. Everybody wants this. And then when I didn't get that traction, I created that, right? Because then I was the person against them. It just got to be strange, right? So my mother was a beautiful woman. and she was my mother. But my mother used drugs, right? There's nobody who's listening to this who's not clear on that. And for the most part, a couple of things stolen here, some lights out, some poverty, right? Because money was coming in and it was going directly out. And she would smoke crack cocaine. And to see her, you wouldn't know because she was still heavy, right? She still was heavy. Not like what you would think of a normal crackhead out in the street. And we never lost our apartment. I know people who have. That didn't happen to us. It got close, but it never happened. But there was a time where I would wake up in the morning to go to school, and I would probably get the clothes that I had on the day before that I left in the bathroom to put it on, right? Don't judge me. And it would be in a tub, soaking wet. And I remember this happened a lot to the point that I stopped leaving stuff in the bathroom. And I would be like, Mom, what's going on with the pants? Why are my pants in the tub? And she was like, well, I was going to wash them and, whatever. And I'm like, but my wallet's in there and my gum wrappers and all this type of stuff. And that just was what it was. So I didn't understand what it was until one time I woke up around 3:00 in the morning to go to the bathroom. And she was there. She had this, and I can still see it. This is traumatic to me. There was this tumbler. She had this blue tumbler in her hand, right? The plastic tumbler that you stack and you could get 10 in a row and they like tumblers. But she wasn't carrying it like how you to drink it. She had it with her hand on the top of it. And I'm like, well, Mom, what's going on? And she's like, nothing. And I'm like, I got to go to the bathroom. And she's standing in front of the bathroom. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she was like, do you see that? And I'm like, do I see what? She's like, did you see smoke? And I'm like, no, I don't see smoke. And I'm like, what are you seeing smoke? And my pants are in the tub. I didn't leave them in it. And she's like trying to pour water. I'm like, yo, Ma, chill. Let me get over here. Let me get these pants. And even as I take the pants and I'm taking them, she had that tumbler and she's following the pants and she's still like dashing water on the pants like they're on fire. And that made a lot of sense to why everything was wet. When she got high, she saw smoke, which is her thing. I've been high several different times and I didn't see smoke. I've never seen smoke unless I was smoking and I saw the smoke from smoke. But that's one of those traumatic incidents that who do I talk to about that at 12? Who do I talk to about that? Who do I get to explain that to? And explain like some of the things that are going on in my head around that, some of those experiences. Like who's there to actually continue to guide that kid, me, in a direction where you can say that's not normal. That what you're experiencing is painful and it's sad and all like to give all of that the space. So nothing, it doesn't happen. But what happens with that is that's something I just absorb, right? I absorb it and then I build layers on top of it. And very much that becomes who I am. So I got this kind of tension in my body, this trauma that's undiagnosed and unhandled. And then I go out in life and I get a job and I get a partner and I do all the things. But that trauma is still very much in me. And like I remember traumatic. I saw this woman when I was a kid. She had a yellow dress on, and I remember she had a dog. And I remember this woman and her son. She lived on the other side of the street, but up the block. And her dog got hit by a car and killed. And I remember seeing her crying in the street with this dog. And I remember the blood from the dog. It was really thick. And I'm looking at it, and I remember her picking this dog up and putting it like to her chest with the yellow dress on and the blood getting on her dress. I don't want to be graphic, but I remember that. And I remember her son standing on the curb. I think he did something that had the dog get hit. He let the leash go because his face, I remember his face. And I remember the mother just crying. That's a traumatic incident that right now, I'm like, you need some help around that. You know what I mean? But that's trauma. Experienced these traumas. And I've been in relationships with women who've had different kinds of traumas, their own personal traumas. And me being with them and not knowing what the deal is. And I know you choose me, I'm choosing you. We're working together. But then there will be these unnecessary obstacles. Like if you drive and you drive through a residential area, there's some speed bumps at times. And speed bumps don't stop you from getting from point A to point B. They just slow you down, right? And if you take it too fast, it'll bump the whole car. But you can do 90 if you want to. If you feel like doing that with your car, it's uncomfortable, but you can do that. Normal people, normal people, slow down. They might speed up, and then me, this normal person, I drive normal, but then I slow down when it comes down to the speed bump, and I go over it, and and then I do it again, right? But obstacles in the relationship where there's something constantly stopping or slowing me down from getting to the person. And it's like, what is the deal? And I'm a person who can speak to it, right? And say, this is what I'm noticing, and not make them wrong, and really getting that it doesn't take long for me to acknowledge that there's something, right, going on. And it has little to nothing to do with me, because you wouldn't invite me in to give me stiff arms. But I'm in, and now you have your own safety parameters. And I've dated someone who was beat up by her coward baby daddy, right? You know how I feel about men. Put their hands on women. It's corny, and you're whack for that. But this was a situation where she would set up these barriers. Now, this is where I come from. I argue loud, right? It's like a wolf ticket, paper dragon. You know what I mean? But I argue loud. Like, what? That is blah, 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 blah. And I can sit here and I will argue, and I will curse. I won't curse at you. I'll be like, this is some BS. Blah, blah, blah. But I'm here and I'm in my space. Argue. That is like my space of my origin of coming from arguing. Right? Like if you want to win an argument, you just get louder and you use more profanity. And as time has gone on and I've dated different women, I started to see like, well, that doesn't work, because I'm losing these arguments, and I'm so right. And because my volume goes up, and they, like the word cower wants to come in, but it's not, that paints a visual like I'm standing over them, but they shut down. That I've learned to not get loud. So now I argue in a way, and arguing is corny, but I argue, I'm being realistic, but I argue in a way that I know I'm not going to do the thing that's going to have you shut down, because then that dominates the whole reason of us having this conversation, right? We can have a disagreement, but I play the lower volume. And that's everything against what I know because you get no traction arguing at a low volume in my family. No traction. You can never be, well, I just disagree with how this is happening. You will get steamrolled by like a 7-year-old in my family. This is like, we get up and it's nothing, but that's just how we are. But I would do that in this relationship, and I started to see, so I started to back down. I'm like, but that's you're dominating me, but you're getting loud. I'm like, I know I'm getting loud, but I have it that I'm being dominated because you're so low. But the things you're saying, the things she would say would be horrific. Like, oh my God. And just because you can whisper these terrible things to me, it's okay. And I'm just yelling and arguing things that are like nonsensical, but I'm the bad person. So I learned, right? And then we had a breakthrough, and then we started to get to what was really there. Of course, I turned my volume down. I know how to have an intellectual argument or disagreement or a debate, as you will. I don't know why we have to do that civilized, but okay. But I got to it that she had been in a situation where she had made herself available and vulnerable to a person who was loud like me, right? And he ended up like beating on her. So my volume reminded her of him, and that was something that connected me to him, and those roadblocks were things to protect herself for something that she had never gotten over. She had never went to work. She had never done therapy. She had never done anything. It just, she handled it, which is what I'm familiar with. It's just handling and dealing with things. And then it becomes a part of my own narrative. Like, I've been through this. As my cousin would say, don't you think that makes you stronger? I could only imagine that for her, in that same scenario, don't you think you making it through being in this abusive relationship with this man only makes you stronger? No, it doesn't. No, I can answer right now. No, it doesn't. But when there's a space for a person to own trauma, like it's mine, like it's my badge, it's my cape, it's my callus, right? Like a actual callus that I built up. And what's underneath the callus? It's like a tender wound that needs to be handled. It needs to be taken care of. It needs to be seen, and maybe it needs medical care. And I've experienced in my life that was not something that was available to me as a man. That's not what Black people do. I mean, it's a whole lot of things. Like, when I started to go to therapy, I got a lot of flack. Like, you doing that white stuff, Black, we handle it. Don't you think that make it strong? Like, just the idea of that, of now I have to be responsible for owning somebody else's trauma that was delivered to me. Now, I talk about my mother on drugs. I don't know what my mother experienced in her life that had that be who she was. And I hate to paint a picture of her being like, in my life, she's drug addict. No, she has been extraordinary things in my life. And she has been a drug addict, right? She's now passed away. But the umbrella of the drug addiction for my mom trickled down to be all of these types of situations and traumas and things that happen that were like, this shouldn't be happening. And to know this shouldn't be happening, or I don't want this to be happening, and it is happening, and there's nothing to be done about it, because who do you talk to? Talk to somebody, you're going to get taken? I'm not trying to get taken. I don't want to go to anybody's, was it BCW? I'm from New York, so it's like, was it BCW? Out here is DIFUS. I don't want any parts of any of that. So what do? You grow up with it. You grow up with this stuff. And when it doesn't get handled, it gets handled. So there's a narrative that says it makes you stronger. Maybe it makes you something. I don't know if it makes me strong. I don't know if me having experienced what I experienced made me stronger. And it's the thing, though, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Maybe not. Maybe what didn't kill me that I actually handle and sought out makes me stronger. So I don't know. So I don't know. So anyway, talking to this person, all of this stuff came up. It all came up. And I talked about like the space. So yes, all of this happens in the Black community. And I can't say we don't. I'm sure that some of us do. But as a community, it's very much, this is ours, this is mine, I'll handle it. Even like down to like snitching, right? Talking about drug addiction. God forbid me would call the cops on the person who was selling drugs to my mother, who would get high and come in and give my life this tragedy. Who am I to call a cop in my community? I'm a snitch. We don't snitch. We don't tell. We handle. Because I'm not the guy that's going to suit up and put the black mask on and go out and handle him. But I'm calling the cops. I'm good. I'm going to respect the law. But there's different laws, right, in certain environments. So no snitching. Like I don't get who creates the narrative that we have to live in, that I've chosen to, and I've chosen to turn my back on that narrative as well. But I come from the narrative of, you don't tell people your business. You don't tell nobody your business. You don't tell anybody what's going on. You don't snitch. You keep it to yourself. Like somebody could actually be a menace, a literal menace in the community. And I mean, occasionally they get handled by someone, but more or less they just a menace. And there's not a space where I could say I'm going to call the cops on this person and not be snitched. I'm a snitch. So like why own that? That's who has handed that narrative down, and why have I been a part of taking that on and accepting it? Because I have called people saying, snitch. I even like Cyan. Cyan talks. Cyan, Cyan's been dressing herself. She's in 5th grade. Cyan's been dressing herself since she was in the 2nd grade. She's had some some outfits that were like, are you seriously going out? But I give it to her, like, because it's her, because it had nothing to do with her. It had everything to do with me. So then one day she had on this outfit, and I said, what are you going to do if somebody teases you? And she says, first of all, I'll say, it's my clothing. You shouldn't be talking about my clothing. I don't know why you care. I'm like, okay, that's good. And then she said, and then I'm going to tell. and then, and then I'm going to tell. And I'm like, who is he going to tell? She's like, I'm going to tell my teacher. At that time, it was Miss, whatever. And I was like, why would you want to do that? And she was like, well, because we're not supposed to talk about anybody's outwardly appearance. I would never tell, right? I'd get in trouble for fighting after school, but I'd never. And when she said, I'm going to tell, my first instinct was, little snitch, little snitch. But I sat there and I'm like, this is her life. This is how it is now. There's no bullying. They got all this other stuff. But that's years later with my little princess. You snitch. That came up. I didn't say it, but that came up from like the gut of like, who does that? We don't do that. So was I committed to give her that energy? Like, you don't tell, you handle it. Nope. I just laughed. I told my girlfriend, she laughed. And we just let it go. And now she is that person. She will, like, listen, this is not right. She will defend people. She's a upstander is what teachers have said. An upstander is the person who speaks out for other people. Now, I don't know if that's a trick that she speaks up for other people, but meanwhile, she's a little bit of a menace. It's probably all correct. But that's it. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And it is really 90. So I think I'm going to keep moving. I think I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go until I run out of stuff to say, which if you've been around, I can talk about rocks. But anyway, I appreciate y'all for hanging out with me. Did I get to a conclusion? No, I just wanted to bring that up because that was really an important conversation I had when I was just telling them, like, we might not talk about it. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And I know for myself, I've done a great job of masking it because it's weakness. And I'll speak as me again before I close. As a black man, that idea of me being soft or weak has had me do things that in my core I didn't want to do. But I was not committed to being perceived as weak. And then it's like the question is, well, who's creating a narrative of you're weak? Like, where am I getting that conversation from? Where is it coming from? And why am I giving it value? And for whatever reason, that's a whole nother topic that I will sit with my therapist and talk about. And I have, honestly, I have. I've gotten here because I do talk about situations. I do talk about things. And I spent a lot of time talking about just this subject, sessions about it, because it's not original. My secrets and the things that I've been through are not exclusive, but they're exclusive if I keep it to myself and somebody else keeps it to themselves. In the moment that somebody said something that triggers, oh, I've been a part of that. I'm not alone. But I've been hard pressed to find other people who rock in my circle who want to look at what we've experienced as a trauma or something to weaken myself, as opposed to looking at it and putting it on. And actually like those weighted suits, like I'm a carry this. And because I can carry this, that makes me a better man. For who? For who? And that's it. It just doesn't work for me. I don't want to come across as judgmental, but that doesn't work for me. And I'd argue that it works at all. It's just not necessary. Taking the bag off, sitting upright, and working on some things that need to be worked on. But that's not a conversation that's readily available when there's so much of the body and the mind and the spirit, right, that has been calloused and it's just the way it is. And because it didn't kill me, it made me stronger. I don't want to have that I don't want to be a part of that. I've been a part of that conversation. I today choose not to be a part of that conversation. I'm more interested in what's underneath the callus, and let's figure out how we can get rid of a little bit of that. Because it's nothing like, it's the most confronting situation to be in when you're with somebody who has the calluses, and it's still tender, but you can't really get to the what is of it. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist. I'm just a person that's going out and knowing that some things were upside down, and I've been going after it, trying to figure it out. And sometimes I fail, but I think I've had some success, and it's something that I'm here to talk about. So anyway, listen, love your daughters. Love your daughters, man. It's so good. It's so good to love your daughters. My daughter makes it so, she sleeps still. I thought she was gonna come out. She was up at like 2:00 in the morning. She'd be putting me to bed. Anyway, love your daughters. Take good care of your family. Love your sons. Love your sons. Let them, make it okay. Let them be, it's okay for them to cry. Do I have to say that? It's like corny. It's okay for your sons to cry. Maybe you're like, son, no, it's not. But I think nowadays that is okay. I think parents today understand some things. I don't know anything. I just know love your family, love yourself, do something really great for yourself. Figure that out. Figure out what would be great for you. That's not something that you want to break your bank for. Like, do you take baths? I hate baths, but I like them when I'm in it. But it's just something about the bath that's just like, I'll tell you why. To me, it's feminine. No man takes a bath. What man takes a bath? Men don't take baths. Where did I get that conversation from? I do not know. And because my body aches a lot, I find myself taking more baths and putting a little fuzzy, what do you call it, the bath bomb. My daughter's like, we got the bath bomb here. And I'm like, if you don't get that pink little ball away from my running hot water, it's going to be a problem. But truth be told, I will be in there putting the fuzzy little bath and Epsom salt and massaging my head. You know, I'm going to wrap it up. But what are you going to do that's nice for yourself? I don't know. But I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to come back tomorrow, and I hope you're here. So thank you for hanging out with me. This is Samin. This has been the Semi-ish Show. Oh, I'm supposed to do it. This is the thing. I've been coached. Tell people to share it. So you tell people to share it. Share it. Share. And I have the podcast is up on Spotify, iHeartRadio. It's Pandora. It's on Pandora. When I saw the email, it was kind of like, yeah, that's dope, son. That's Pandora, iHeart, Audible. I assume everybody has an Audible app, because if you don't, you should, and it's free. So you should get one. I get no money for any of this. I'm gonna stop promoting anything, but that's where you can find the Semi-ish Show, and the I is spelled EYE, because I see you. It's kind of dope. Anyway, take good care. Check me out. You could listen to me in your car while you drive. When you want to hear my voice while you drive, don't get in accidents and blame me. Anyway, peace. I appreciate you hanging out.